extenso. Logo, eu vou ler para vocês para que eu não deixe de fora nada, nenhuma de suas qualificações. Vou ler tanto em português quanto em inglês. Só um minuto. A senhora Ruth Sinha é chefe e professora assistente e é membro fundador da Escola de Direito de Cheltenham e membro do Conselho de Planejamento e Monitoramento da Academia de Pesquisa e Educação de Cheltenham. Ela está atualmente cursando doutorado na área de proteção dos conhecimentos tradicionais em relação às plantas medicinais e concluiu seu mestrado em Direito pela National Law Institute University de Bhopal, com especialização em Direito de Propriedade Intelectual e Direito Empresarial. A senhora Sinha publicou extensivamente artigos em várias revistas, escreveu capítulos de livros em volumes editados e compartilhou experiências como pessoa recurso e painelista em várias conferências nacionais, seminários, painéis de discussão e palestras em instituições acadêmicas de renome. Ela também é membro ativo como especialista em IPR no Conselho de Inovação da instituição, trabalhando em estreita colaboração com a Célula de Inovação do Ministério de Recursos Humanos na Índia. Seu webinar nacional sobre direitos autorais e patentes em dezembro de 2020, como palestrante principal, foi coberto pelo jornal National Daily Times of India. Ela também é especialista em arbitragem e participou de várias competições de tribunal simulado de arbitragem internacional, conferências nacionais e internacionais e workshops, tanto como organizadora como pessoa recurso. Ela também foi convidada como docente delegada da Associação de Direito Internacional das Escolas de Direito, Fórum Global de Decanos de Direito, realizado em Pune, em 2017, para representar uma das universidades da Índia, juntamente com outras universidades internacionais. Now I'm going to read Ms. Sinha's qualifications in English. Ms. Ruchi Sinha, head and assistant professor, is a founding faculty member of the Cheltenham School of Law, and member of the Planning and Monitoring Board of Cheltenham Academy of Research and Education. She's currently pursuing her PhD in the area of protection of traditional knowledge vis-a-vis medicinal plants, and has completed her Master in Laws from National Law Institute University in Bhopal, with a specialization in intellectual property rights and business law. Ms. Sinha has extensively published articles in various journals, written book chapters in edited volumes, and shared expertise as a resource person and panelist in various national conferences, seminars, panel discussions, and delivered guest lectures in reputed academic institutions. She is also an active member as an IPR expert in the institution's Innovation Council, closely working with Ministry of Human Resource Department's Innovation Cell in India. Her national webinar on copyrights and patents in December 2020 as a keynote speaker was covered by the leading national daily, Times of India. She also specializes in arbitration and has been part of various international arbitration moot court competition, national and international conference and workshops, both as an organizer and resource person. She has also been invited as a faculty delegate to International Law Association of Law Schools Global Law Forum, held in Pune in 2017, to represent one of the universities in India, along with other international universities. Please welcome Ms. Sinha.
Thank you so much, Isabella. I hope I'm audible right now. Okay. Okay, fine, fine. Thank you so much. A very warm good evening to all of you who are here, to our esteemed guests. And I would like to extend a very heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of this webinar, and especially Fernanda for giving me this amazing opportunity to share my views on the account of International Women's Day and bring into light about the women's discrimination in India. Sure.
I'm going to translate, ok? Roshi, if excuse me. Bem, ela está dando, né, agradecendo a oportunidade de estar aqui no Brasil. Ela fala diretamente da Índia, aproximadamente 2h30 da manhã, agora lá. Ela está muito feliz de estar aqui no Tribunal Regional do Trabalho da 14ª Região e mais feliz ainda por falar de um tema tão sensível, tal como é a discriminação de gênero no território indiano. Ok, Roshi, back to you.
Sure. Now I will just present my PPT so that we can take a look. I hope that the presentation is visible to everyone. Is it? Yeah. Is it visible?
Yes, Roshi, now it is visible.
Okay. So as we know that today I have been
Do you want
invited.
to try and go full screen? Because it's not full screen yet.
Full screen, full screen. Okay. Will this do?
It's
Will this
visible anyways. Anybody can see it. It's okay. It's okay,
Okay.
Roshi.
Okay, fine, fine, fine. Today, as we know that I have been invited here to speak something on discrimination in India among the women, and in which regard I would like to first of all give out certain facts because we know that India's progress towards gender equality, or it is also measured with its position on certain rankings as Gender Development Index, which has been very disappointing lately. In the past decade, if we want to check, the GDP of India has gone really down, and it has created a certain kind of gender pay gap as well. There was also an increase which was shown in crimes against women, particularly in brutal crimes such as rape, dowry deaths, and honor killings, which I will be covering later. Apart from that, there was also a very much increase after the COVID-19 pandemic. There was increase in the domestic violence, where we see that the women were not safe in their own home. So that was something which was also very frightening. And National Commission for Women received around 13,410 complaints of crimes against women, including the cyber crimes, just between March to September 2020, and of which around 4,350 were domestic violence. So these many complaints were peaking up during the pandemic as well. So
Can I
what?
interrupt you,
Yeah,
Roshi, so
yeah,
I can
sure,
translate? Yes?
sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
Ela começa a sua fala a relatar a triste realidade do cenário indiano hoje em dia, porque se tem um grande gargalo quando se fala em discriminação de gênero. Ela aponta que, além da discriminação de gênero, há um número crescente de violência doméstica, o que eu acho, né, que aconteceu praticamente, eu acho que quase em todo o globo, e que esses números foram, né, agudizados pela crise pandêmica causada pela Covid-19. onde as mulheres não se sentem seguras nem mesmo no conforto de suas casas. Expressão dela. Lá se tem uma comissão nacional para as mulheres, que é a National Commission for Women, onde houve, né, fizeram uma pesquisa que entre os meses de março e setembro do ano passado, houve mais de 30 mil denúncias de mulheres violentadas. Ok, Rushi.
Yeah. So the point being, when we check out that what is the situation in India and how India has helped, and how India has made certain efforts, then they have ensured that the existing government schemes, okay, during the pandemic I'm talking about right now, has been taken care of, and there were certain kind of support system which were made operational, because of which 33% of violence complaints were made via National Commission of Women's WhatsApp helpline, which was launched recently in April 2020. There were certain state government initiatives as well, where they were suppressing corona but not suppressing the voice of women. Apart from that, there were other state commission for women which provided for telecounseling facility, and there were certain centers which were special cell for women and children which were made, so that the people cannot get affected, specifically the women, the minority cannot get much affected because of the lockdown, and because of the domestic violence rising in the lockdown.
Ok. A maior parte dessa violência doméstica, em virtude, né, das medidas sanitárias ocasionadas pela pandemia, hoje podem ser relatadas via WhatsApp, porque ao mesmo tempo em que o governo estava a suprimir, né, a disseminação do coronavírus, não conseguiram suprimir a voz das mulheres ativas mais afetadas.
But the point which we have to highlight here and see that where a country where every third woman faces some form of domestic violence, there are around 52% of women and 42% of men believe that it is very justified for a husband to hit his wife, which is, in such kind of a situation, in such kind of a country, it is very much required that there has to be a long term national strategy in order to combat certain kind of situations.
Ela acaba de dizer que a grande ironia é que os homens, eles se sentem no direito de violentar suas respectivas esposas. O que há de se ter uma política nacional de combate e prevenção à violência de gênero.
It's very important. I wanted to show these videos out here, but I'll send across the link to you, Fernanda and Isabella, if that is possible. And please put it out to the rest of the world, because on paper, rights of women in India is looking to be excellent, whereas it is not in reality. So I would address few of the things out here which I thought that will show that how there is a massive gender discrimination in India, and how we are going to bridge that gap. So that is something which I want to show through this presentation. Shall I proceed?
Ela tem 2 vídeos para passar e ela ficou de remeter à escola judicial, que poderá depois ser, esse material todo vai ficar disponibilizado para quem tiver interesse. E ela diz que, apesar de terem várias legislações de proteção ao combate à discriminação de gênero, ainda assim a realidade é bem diferente do que acontece no mundo legislado.
As we are already talking about certain problem areas that where the gender divide, creates or come across. So number one, which I feel is crime against women, which is on the rise, and we are not a very safe country for women. It leaves us to only being, fourth dangerous country to be, to allow women protection, or to safeguard women with their laws. Uh, the point being, there are several crimes against women which take place specifically against women, which is like rape, acid attack, domestic violence, dowry deaths. So there is a concept of dowry in India, which means that if I have to get married, so if a female has to get married, he has to give money to the groom's family in order to get married, and those are very massive amount. Though there has been proper dowry prohibition act, which has been created in India by the legislation, there are other we have Indian penal code where dowry death also has a very stringent punishment. But what fails it is, illiteracy, which I will also come across about the education and illiteracy and lower literacy rate, which gives, still there is a lot of section of the society where dowry deaths are totally, prevalent. Dowry is very normal for them, and because of which these dowry deaths, because the groom's family is not satisfied and they keep on asking, even after the marriage they keep on asking for money or other luxury items from the bride's family, which ultimately either leads to some kind of suicide, which is pressured on that particular bride, or what happens is that she is so much mentally and physically tortured, which leads to her death by the groom's family. So this is something which is prevalent mostly in India, and this is something which is on the go, and it is not decreasing anytime soon, though we have certain
Can I?
legislation.
Can
Yeah,
I, Ruthie?
yeah.
Thank you. Bem, ela começa a elencar os principais problemas, e isso é feito nesse slide que ora se apresenta, mas que, em relação aos crimes contra as mulheres, os que mais têm destaque, porque hoje a Índia ocupa o quarto lugar, né, de ser o pior país para as mulheres, no tratamento para com as mulheres. Muito em razão dos inúmeros estupros ocasionados, e uma da questão que afeta também a população é uma cultura milenar, que é o dote, ou seja, aqueles casamentos arranjados, a família, né, da noiva deve desembolsar um valor em dinheiro, esse valor em dinheiro geralmente é expressivo, e a Índia conta hoje com uma legislação que proíbe o dote, mas apenas no papel, porque a realidade ainda persiste, justamente porque se está, né, está enraizado no paradigma da cultura indiana, esses casamentos arranjados, condicionados ao pagamento do dote, e justamente pelo dote, a família não quer ter mulher, porque sabe que futuramente vai ter que desembolsar um grande valor. Então, ela dá preferência para sexo masculino, o que já se tem aí, né, uma discriminação desde o feto. Além disso, ainda que a família arque com o dote, ela diz que a família do noivo, geralmente, depois ainda de casados, insiste em ter novas quantias, porque talvez a propaganda foi enganosa ou algo do tipo. Então, há várias ameaças, o que causa não só um adoecimento físico por conta de tortura levada a efeito pelo noivo, mas também um adoecimento psíquico, o que se tem aí números expressivos de suicídio. Ok, Rushi.
Yeah. Thank you, Fernanda. So the next topic, which is, or the problem area, is the preference to son, which directly associates us with the patriarchal society. So cultural institutions in India, when we talk about, is totally dependent or totally driven by patriarchy, which leads to the situation that even the married couples, they are living in their husband, with their husband's parents. So this is the situation which we generally see in India, and it becomes a huge problem because they are kind of portraying or playing a central role in perpetuating the gender inequality and ideas about gender in gender appropriate behavior, that the women of the house has to only cook, deliver babies, and not required to go to work. And if she has a successful career, she'll not be able to make a successful homemaker, or she will not be a good mother. All these kind of things are given. So culturally, we are very ingrained, as a parental preference is there for sons, their education, their everything has been dependent on them, because they look up to their son as their caregivers for in the old age. That's why it deals or leads to very poor kind of consequences for the daughters. So as I already told you, there is dowry system. With dowry comes the dowry death, dowry related violence, all these things comes across. And in this situation, if we see our recent ratio, the sex ratio was so low. It was only 919 girls under age 6 per 1,000 boys. So this is something which is a real question mark, that what are we doing, or what are we ingraining in our society in India per se, in terms of gender appropriate behavior and gender discrimination in the house level, in their own homes.
Ok. Can I, Rushi?
Yeah, yeah, please go ahead for now.
Em vista dessa cultura altamente patriarcal, e eles se vangloriam dessa cultura patriarcal, é aquilo, né? É que eu acho que é praticamente o que a Rosemary falou na nossa primeira apresentação. Todas as regras foram construídas pelos homens, então se vive o espírito eminentemente masculino, e há uma divisão absurda de tarefas. Enquanto os homens são os provedores e devem ser bem educados e trabalhar, as mulheres, pelo contrário, têm a obrigação de serem donas de casa, de serem prendadas na cozinha, ainda, né, de serem mães, mas com preferência de serem mães pelo sexo masculino, e ela chama atenção de novo para a questão do dote, já falada, o que coloca um peso muito grande na condição de filha, na condição de mulher. E ela termina a fala a perguntar, né, o que a Índia tem feito para, de alguma forma, mudar esse paradigma de alta discriminação de gênero, para que se tenha aí um tratamento jurídico e real adequado.
The third point which I would like to highlight is education. Because girls, if we see, though girls in India today are more educated, and they are, um, uh, they are getting the education, but there is a serious gap in educational attainment. Okay, so which means that they are able to start their schooling, but they are not able to finish off their schooling, and that has worsened over time. So in past 2 decades, if we see, there has been the schooling years, or the completing of the schooling years is tripled, that they have been dropouts, it has been tripled in number in recently 2018 than the boys. And boys are also getting more education, because I told you that they are looked upon as caregivers of their parents. So obviously that is the preference. Apart from that, we also have a scheme, or not a scheme actually, it's a fundamental constitutional right of anybody, any person who is, a boy or a girl till the age of 14 is going to get a free education. Though they start the free education, but they are not able to complete the education, that becomes a serious problem. So there is a, rate of improvement in the schooling of the girls, but there is so much of a gender gap, which is, generally it is seen with the female and male attainment of that particular education. Apart from that, what are the barriers which we see that why they are not able to, complete their education? So number one, there is a problem of, poverty. There is a problem of disability. There is a problem of, equal enjoyment of the right to quality education, because there are harmful gender stereotypes. There are wrongful gender stereotyping that okay, girls only should know how to wash clothes, how to make meals, and how to feed their family, how to become a mother. There is also a system of child marriage. If I don't know if it's prevalent in any part of other, other countries or not, but child marriage was very much prevalent. It's still prevalent in some of the very interior and rural areas of India, and that becomes that becomes a problem because there is unintended pregnancy because of that. So ultimately, they are not able to complete their education. Okay. Also, there is a lot of poverty, problem of infrastructure, problem of sanitization, and all these things.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Outro problema que ela aponta e que está na tela é a educação, porque há um gargalo muito grande, né, da educação masculina e da educação feminina. Um dos maiores problemas é que, muito embora o público feminino tenha, né, esse público ingresse no ensino fundamental, no ensino médio, as mulheres não conseguem completá-lo. E houve, a partir das últimas décadas, isso foi acentuado a partir de 2018, que ela coloca, um decréscimo muito grande de mulheres no ensino. E ainda, a Índia, né, porque é um direito fundamental, e ela aponta o direito à educação para todos, indistintamente se homem ou mulher. E qual seria o maior problema para que as mulheres não completem o ensino médio? O primeiro problema que ela aponta seria a pobreza, falta de saneamento básico, falta de igualdade de oportunidades, porque não se há necessidade de estudar quando a mulher tem um lugar já predestinado, que seria na casa, com o objetivo de cuidar da família, estritamente cuidar da família.
The other thing which I want to highlight here, and it's very important actually, it's the workplace bias, it's the sexual harassment at workplace. Because now, what if the women have already got the education? Because you can see that there are educated women in India as well. But the point being that do they have a proper, safe environment to work or not? So there were, a lot of complaints which happened, and because of which we got, our own Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition, and Redressal Act. It was enacted in 2013, and it was trying to provide certain protections to the women who are actually working at workplaces. And because it cannot be a very unwelcoming act, of physical intimacy, like grabbing, brushing, touching, pinching, any kind of eve teasing. This was happening in institutions. It still happens a lot of places, but now they have a lot of, there is a famous case which happened in 2013 itself, that is called Vishaka case. And this Vishaka case gave certain guidelines for the Supreme Court of India. So Supreme Court of India gave some stringent guidelines where there was, every employer is required to constitute an internal complaints committee. Even if that branch is having with a as less as 10 numbers of employees or more than 10 numbers of employees. Now these complaint committees have helped women to reach out, or reach out and tell their truth if required, seek protection if required, seek safety if required. And this particular act also covers all kind of students who are studying in the school and colleges, as well as patients in the hospitals, or employers, and local authorities. They are responsible and held responsible to set up a grievance committee to investigate all kinds of complaint which is related to it. And any aggrieved women can file a complaint in writing to these internal committee or the local committee within 3 months from the date of that particular sexual harassment event, or whenever that last incident happened, from that 3 months. And this has also been associated in under our Indian Penal Code, that is the Criminal Act, or criminal legislation regulation, where the punishment and punitive measures have been taken under Indian Penal Code. So under that also there are sections 294, 354, 354A, 509. All these have been taken care of. So that has shown that why we have a work bias, and if we have a work bias, then yes, we are working towards it. How much is the implementation is still a question mark, because that has not shown a lot of improvement, but it is still to be needed to be very much strengthened.
Okay, Rushi, just one thing. Vishaka keys.
Yeah,
Vishaka,
Vishaka.
Vishaka
Yeah.
keys, yes. But were they added by the Supreme Court of India?
Yes,
Or
it is a verdict by the Supreme Court of India,
okay,
and yeah, and they shared certain guidelines which has to be followed by all the workplaces. If they are having 10 number of employees or more employees, they have to give out certain complaint committee for each office. They have to, for the investigation or any kind of complaints relating to sexual harassment.
ok. Ela acaba de me dizer, só fui tirar uma dúvida que eu fiquei, que o outro grande problema que a população feminina enfrenta está no assédio sexual no ambiente do trabalho. E ela enfatiza que, apesar das mulheres não buscarem a educação por conta da cultura milenar, há mulheres muito bem educadas na Índia. Mas aí, neste ponto, ela enfrenta um outro problema, o ambiente de trabalho inóspito. E por conta, né, das várias práticas de assédio sexual, foi necessário aí uma política uma política de regulamentação. E nessa política de regulamentação, além de uma lei que proíbe, né, e que determina que os empregadores garantam um ambiente rígido de trabalho para as mulheres, a Suprema Corte da Índia também foi impulsionada a editar um ato que é chamado de Vishaka Keys, as chaves de Vishaka, e nesse guia editado pela Suprema Corte da Índia, todos os empregadores estão sujeitos às normas editadas nessa Vishaka Keys. Ou seja, as autoridades locais, os empregadores têm responsabilidade pela rigidez física e psíquica da mulher no meio ambiente de trabalho. E a partir do momento em que há qualquer comunicação de prática de assédio sexual, as autoridades são obrigadas a investigar e há um lapso aí de, no máximo, 3 meses para completar essa investigação. A grande questão é, se caso a Bichaca Kiss está sendo implementada, é outros 500, porque ainda permanece um grande número de casos de assédio sexual no ambiente de trabalho.
So, a last point which I see as a problem area is the healthcare, because there is a lot of gender based discrimination in India regarding women's health. Why I say so is because the research which was taken place by our highest AIMS Medical Institute of India showed that only 37% of women got access to the healthcare as compared to 67% of men. So that is a lot of gap. You can see it's almost double, right? And when we see that, AIMS as an institution, it is the biggest tertiary care hospital in Asia, but to provide any kind of specialized treatments. But it's still, if they are going to like kind of giving or quoting these numbers or the percentage, it shows a real a problem area. Now why I say so is because it's not only that a certain age or after a certain age a woman is facing problem in healthcare. It starts from a very early childhood days, and it goes to the reproductive years, and also it will moves to the other areas as well, as soon as her age is increasing. When we talk about early childhood, there is inadequate and poor nutrition which is involved, and that's why they don't have, more than half of the people are below poverty line, and because of which they cannot even access the primary health care. So because of which they have a poor reproductive health. There is a lot of discrimination against girls, already, which causes a lot of female mortality rate as well is very high. In that case, there is a lot of crimes relating to female feticide. They don't want girls, they don't prefer girls, and that's why that is one age that they that mortality rate is very much uh, a problem area as well. When we talk about the sex discrimination tests, which is not it is banned in India, so nobody can determine the determine the sex of the child which is to be born. So that also poses a lot of threats to the women, because when if she is found out through illegal ways that she has been bearing a female child, then the extended family, the husband's family, will force them to drop or abort the child. So that becomes another issue altogether. And that's why in every level, you see, even in the childhood she faced certain problem in abortions, she's facing a lot of problem. Then we have after the delivery and the motherhood, they are having problems in regarding to breastfeeding. Okay, and they have a lot of death which is relating to not a proper kind of infrastructure which is provided, or special privileges which are provided to them. A lot of pregnancies are happening at home, which is not a proper environment, and it is a very in not a environment which is healthy. So these are the things which also is creating a gender bias a lot, because these are something which are only specific to women, and nobody else can help it or feel that pain which the women are feeling during all these things. And we have also
Can
seen
I
that there are,
repeat?
yeah,
Can I
yeah,
repeat?
yeah, please go ahead, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Because it's gonna be extremely hard.
Yeah, I totally get that, I totally get that.
Outro problema que acomete as mulheres estaria no direito de acesso à saúde. Recentes dados apontam que apenas 37% das mulheres indianas têm acesso ao sistema de saúde, ao passo que isso não acontece no público masculino, que é de 65% hoje quem tem acesso ao sistema de saúde. Um grande problema que ela aponta é, primeiro, a pobreza, que ela já adiantou, mas ainda se tem um peso muito grande na mulher desde o nascimento. E o que causa esse peso é porque ela sabe que futuramente ela vai estar, né, presa num casamento arranjado e ainda hoje se pratica o que se chama de feticídio. Quando se sabe, quando a mulher indiana engravida e eles fazem o teste para saber o sexo e há descoberta de que é mulher, a família do noivo exige que se faça o aborto. E esses abortos são feitos clandestinamente, o que ou causa o falecimento dessas mulheres ou causam lesões irreversíveis. Então, há um alto número de feticídio. E não só feticídio, porque quando não se consegue acesso ao sistema de saúde e o aborto é levado a efeito nessas condições, as famílias do noivo exigem a morte da criança já nascida. Então, há um número muito grande de infanticídio. Vamos ver o que mais que ela falou. Basicamente isso, por hora.
Okay, shall I go ahead, Fernanda? Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay. So now these are the problem areas which I discussed. Now, what is the point and how are we trying to bridge the gap and trying to, remove this gender bias? Not completely. We are actually very far off from that, but we are trying to help out through different kind of legislation, through different kind of system which can be done, and we can bridge the gap. So the number one thing, there are many constitutional and other available rights which are there. Okay, so I'll not go through the entire constitutional provision because it will be very very vast. But you should know that there are more than around 15 rights which are embedded in constitution as our fundamental rights, and rights specifically for women. So that is already embedded there, and one has to take full or interpret the law according to those constitutional privileges, like equality before law, like the state should not discriminate against any citizen on the grounds of any religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of other kind of a thing. So all these kind of things, these are just few examples. The state also has power to make special provisions in favor of women and children. So all these kind of things, they are given full freedom to freedom of speech, freedom of practicing religion, and they have a proper equal rights in order to have an adequate means to livelihood, promote different kind of justice. There has to be free legal aid. All these things they are able to, they will be able to or have the opportunities in order to secure justice for them, secure a nice and happy life for them. They also have one constitution provision, because I will be talking about it as well. It is about maternity relief. Okay, so that is something where the state has the power to make provision for securing just and humane condition of work, and for maternity relief, and which we had a major amendment, which I'll be talking about that as well, that what are the changes we have had in India. So this is the first point, constitutional. Yeah.
Look, just let me ask you something. The maternity leave is already on the Constitution or not?
Yes, it is. It is maternity relief. So they have not told it can be any kind of relief. It's not particularly they have talked about maternity leave. They have just told maternity relief. is how they pronounce it in the constitution. We have a separate act which I will be just discussing a little bit about it, which is Maternity Benefit Act. Okay, so that was amended recently, that I'll be talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so it's in the Constitution right now. The
Yeah. Relief.
maternity relief, right?
Yeah. Relief. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Ela aponta, em primeiro lugar, o que a Índia tem implementado para tentar, de alguma forma, amainar as agruras da discriminação. E ela diz que ainda estão a engatinhar, porque há vários obstáculos a serem superados. E o primeiro diploma é a própria Constituição indiana, que para ela não ter que especificar a Constituição indiana, porque ela é bem analítica, mais analítica que a nossa, por sinal, consta mais de 15 provisões normativas que se destinam estritamente à mulher, no tratamento igualitário, da vedação à discriminação por motivo de sexo ou outro qualquer. Além disso, o direito à liberdade de expressão, igualdade de oportunidades, acesso à justiça e ainda, né, tal como acontece no Brasil, de assistência judiciária gratuita para que se tenha acesso ao todo o sistema de justiça. E, recentemente, houve uma emenda na Constituição a garantir licença maternidade que até então não se tinha. Então, bem recentemente que está -se a garantir aí a oportunidade de a mulher se ausentar do trabalho para cuidar do filho recém-nascido.
Yeah. So, Fernanda, there are also other legal provisions. I'll not go in detail, but I have highlighted it earlier about Indian Penal Code in according to, for the sexual harassment, molestation, torture, both mental and physical, dowry deaths. All these things are also taken into consideration. We have a Benefit Act, which is of 1961, but it was recently, amended in 2017, which I will be also discussing. Apart from that, for women, we have separate acts as well, as Dowry Prohibition Act, as Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, because abortion is legal, and it is also legal for 29 weeks, I suppose, something like that. Yeah, 20 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So that is also there. So these are the things which India has already done on paper. But what is the
abortion is legal until 20 weeks?
Yeah.
Abortion is legal until 20 weeks.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, it's 20 weeks, because earlier it was 6 weeks or something, and it has been increased recently. So if not 20, then somewhere near about it. Yeah.
Okay, but it's legal. Abortion is legal.
It is legal. It is fully legal. Yeah. Yeah. So, apart from that, we have special initiatives also for women, like National Commission for Women. We have, okay, that is a government setup. It's a statutory body which takes up, all the constitutional and legal safeguards for which is provided for the women. They take into consideration that yes, it is done, and women can go to the National Commission. Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Além da Constituição, são várias legislações esparsas que ela menciona que têm a finalidade de combater a discriminação e a violência hoje praticada contra a mulher indiana. E ela faz menção novamente à proibição do dote. Ela aponta que hoje o aborto na Índia é legal até 20 semanas. Se ela não estiver enganada, seria praticamente isso. Acho que nós tivemos um problema de conexão com a Rushi. E, além disso, ela analisa que foi criado que é o Comitê Nacional para as Mulheres, e nesse Comitê Nacional para as Mulheres é uma entidade governamental onde esse público pode e tem a liberdade de reportar todo e qualquer tipo de violência doméstica praticada ou ainda outros crimes acometidos em face da população feminina. Eu acho que nós tivemos, William, um probleminha de conexão, porque a Rushi acabou de retornar aqui. Hi, Rushi. Welcome back. Your mic is off.
Am I audible now? Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. I'll just present my screen as well. Just a second.
Ela só vai apresentar agora a tela novamente, porque, como eu disse mais cedo, houve um problema aí de conexão.
Yes. Is it visible?
Not yet, Rushi.
Is it
It's not
visible now?
visible.
Okay.
No,
I guess.
not yet.
Is it visible now? I suppose.
Yes, it's gonna be visible. Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Great. Yeah.
You're back on track.
So yeah. Shall I continue?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, what other things I wanted to highlight is about, as I told, National Commission for Women is there. There are reservation for women in local self-government. There is also a national plan of action for the girl child, which ensures their survival and protection and development of a girl child. There is also a national policy for the empowerment of women, which was, enacted in 2001. So that came in 2001. These are the things which we have done to bridge the gap with constitutional and other available rights. When we go further is what is required is strengthening the education system. As I already told you, there is free and compulsory education which is required for all the children below or up to age 14. It's free and compulsory education. However, we have seen the unfortunate situation of not attainment, or a full attainment cannot happen, is generally not available for the women or the girl child. But that is something which everybody is working on. And apart from that, because of strengthening this education system, will give a financial independence as well to all the amazing women or the girl child out there. Now, how do we ensure the the financial independence is through improving the women's agency as well, because there are things or evidence which has been shown that there can be economic self sufficiency which can take which can be given to a women through certain kind of skills development. So there are a lot of different skills development areas which has opened up. There are certain financial literary programs which we are working on, and these are other kind of things. And all the corporate sector has a compulsory 2%, or sorry, 5% right now they have increased corporate social responsibility. So that also has helped in order to gain a certain kind of financial independence to a girl. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll proceed, okay?
Yeah.
Outro ponto que ela cataloga é a necessidade de melhoria do sistema educacional. Porque quando se tem a melhora do sistema educacional e se garante o acesso às mulheres a esse sistema ainda eminentemente masculino, também a possibilidade dessa mulher ser financeiramente independente. Porque um dos grandes motivos da dependência psíquica da mulher diz muito respeito à dependência econômica. E quando se garante condições de educação, ela tem maior possibilidade de inserção no mercado de trabalho. E é justamente por isso que o governo, juntamente com organizações privadas, estão implementar políticas de desenvolvimento de habilidades, e esses programas eles são remunerados justamente com a finalidade da mulher ter aí a possibilidade de ser financeiramente independente.
The other 2 points which are very important for bridging the gap is to have a community support system, and also there has to be some kind of advocacy and awareness about these kind of rights and women's rights in India. So for the community support system, there are a lot of complaints helping in order to create a very safe space for women. So that is still going on, but it is also going to take some point of time in order to fully come into picture. There are also certain access which to services which is ranging from legal aid to counseling to shelter homes. All these things are currently being taken into consideration, but it will take some time for the implementation. Lastly, about the advocacy and awareness, it is very much important that we make them aware. We make them, advocate about that. What are their rights? Because I told you that on paper it is pretty, prim and proper, but how much actually is implemented also is affected by how many people are actually aware of it. So that is something which is also taking into consideration. A lot of NGOs are working into it. A lot of places these things are happening right now, and at district level also, at block level also. Or and there are certain budget allocation also from the center and state government which is given to the district and block level in order to create certain kind of awareness programs in order to educate women about their own rights.
Ok. Além do aprimoramento do sistema educacional a possibilitar a independência financeira, também há necessidade de se ter uma rede de apoio comunitária. E essa rede de apoio comunitária tem sido implementada, principalmente dentro das próprias empresas. Há comissões que recebem relatos de práticas de assédio sexual, outras medidas, além, inclusive, de aconselhamentos que se tem com acompanhamento de psicólogos, e também a própria assistência judiciária gratuita vem para garantir, né, o direito de voz dessas mulheres. Ela também aponta que há necessidade de se ter políticas que conscientizem as mulheres de seus direitos, porque muitas delas não conhecem a legislação indiana. Então, se não se conhece a legislação indiana, não tem como elas lutarem por aquilo que elas não sabem que têm. Então, a primeira medida que se está a implementar pelo governo, juntamente com outras organizações não governamentais, é justamente essa política de conscientização dos direitos das mulheres.
Okay. Thank you so much, Fernanda. Now, this is the last segment where I want to highlight, because I know that there are so many problems which we are dealing with, but there are some, breathing space. There is a happy smile, and with which we have welcomed few, women-centric changes in India or Indian law in recent past. So I just want to give a very, very, very brief about all these things which we have, recently come over. First was the Criminal Law Amendment Act. So after a nationwide outrage was there after a brutal gang rape of women, and she unfortunately she couldn't survive, and she subsequently died, because of which there were certain changes in criminal law of India which happened, and it came into force in 2013. And in regard to sexual offenses, now there were new offenses which were recognized by Criminal Law Amendment Act, and which were like acid attack, voyeurism, stalking, intentional disrobing of women, and sexual harassment. So these were included in the Criminal Amendment Act. So that is number one. Number two, I wanted to talk about Maternity Benefit Amendment Act 2017. So there was this maternity amendment which came in like a fresh air, because breath of fresh air, because the maternity amendment extends the paid maternity leave for a women employee with less than two surviving children, okay, for the original 12 weeks. Okay, so originally it was given for 12 weeks. Now it is given to, it was increased to 26 weeks. So that's a huge amount of leap. Okay, and a maximum of 8 weeks can be also taken for, sorry, before the expected delivery date, and the remaining after childbirth. So these are the things which have been increased in India, and it has been welcomed with so much of love and affection.
Roshi, can I ask you something? So the maternity leave now from 12 weeks have
To
gone to 26 weeks, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. Can I
yeah.
translate it?
Sure, please.
Ela aponta aqui que várias medidas, né, que eram praticadas hoje estão criminalizadas por essa lei criminal, esse ato criminal de 2013, e entre essas criminalizações está o lançamento de ácido. Os homens se intitulavam no direito de jogar ácido nas mulheres por conta de não se adequarem à cultura indiana. Então, eles lançavam ácido nas mulheres. Então, hoje é uma prática criminalizada, mas que ainda acontece. Além da perseguição e além também, né, do assédio sexual. Há agora, né, um grande avanço em relação à maternidade, que houve uma ampliação. Antes, a licença maternidade eram de 12 semanas, e agora a licença passa a ser de 26 semanas.
Okay. So the next thing, which was a very welcoming change, was decriminalizing of adultery. So this was a colonial era law which was still going on, and it was struck down by Supreme Court recently, where it prescribed a maximum imprisonment of 5 years to men for adultery. Okay, so India. Was did not used to consider the women's will at all. Okay, so though the women couldn't be punished under this provision, a husband could be prosecuted, or prosecute the man. Okay, so if a person is having, if a female is having into an adultery relationship, then the husband can only prosecute the man who had sexual relations with his wife, even if the wife was a voluntary participant in the act. So there was no willing. So this was actually done or struck down in order to break the break the image that the husband is the master of wife. So that has been clearly struck down with this.
Ok. Outra questão fundamental foi a descriminalização do adultério, que até então era criminalizado, e o homem teria o direito de, pelo exercício de suas próprias razões, tentar, de alguma coisa, recuperar aquela honra que foi perdida. E hoje, com essa descriminalização do adultério, se tem agora a premissa, né, que se busca romper, de que o homem não é o mestre, não é o dono, não é o senhor da sua esposa.
The last two are also a age old thing which have gone, like right now has been struck down. So the first one is the triple talaq. So what happens, it was an Islamic practice which allows men to divorce their wives immediately by uttering the word talaq, which means divorce, 3 times, and they can just immediately divorce. The Supreme Court, in a very landmark judgment, which was Saira Bano versus Union of India, Now that they told that it has to be set aside, the triple talaq system has to be foregone, and the bench declared that the triple talaqs was unconstitutional. Okay, so that is something which came as a very nice welcoming change. Apart from that, the other one is a Sabrimala issue. So what happened here was this was also a landmark judgment by Supreme Court in the year 2019, because it was there is a temple, now the Sabrimala temple doesn't permit any entry of women of all age groups. Only after you have a menopause you are allowed to visit that temple. So only after age of 50 you are allowed to visit that temple for a women. For a men it is always allowed. So this was told that this is devotion cannot be subjected to any kind of gender discrimination. So this was a long fought case from 2006. It was going on, and finally the court, Supreme Court, honorable Supreme Court, passed the judgment and told that these centuries old tradition of Sabrimala temple, which is banning the entry of women of mensurating age inside the temple, is not going to work, because women are not lesser than or inferior to man, and patriarchy of religion cannot be permitted in any sort. This is a biological thing or a physiological reason, and it cannot be considered or accepted in the freedom for faith. So these are the changes which has come recently in India, which is very women centric. Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you explain a triple talaq?
Yeah.
Triple talaq.
Yeah.
It's Islamic practice, right? When you say divorce, divorce, divorce,
Yes. Yes.
then you are divorced. But the Supreme Court declared unconstitutional. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And the Sabrimala issue, it was also a decision from the Supreme Court in 2019, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now that imposed to the woman to, but
not enter the temple. So women of mensurating age cannot go in
the temple under menopause.
They can only enter after their menopause. So mensurating age
the temple after the menopause.
Yeah. So this was also held unconstitutional, because biological or physiological reasons cannot be accepted in freedom for faith. Yeah.
Okay. Vou agora traduzir para vocês. Essa primeira, que é triple talaq, talaq é uma expressão islâmica, era uma prática islâmica em que se dizia divórcio, 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 e você estaria automaticamente divorciado. Mas hoje não é permitido porque a Suprema Corte indiana declarou inconstitucional essa prática. E a outra, que é a Sabrimala Issue, também diz respeito a um julgamento emitido pela Suprema Corte indiana de que, até então, havia uma legislação que impedia mulheres novas de entrarem no templo. Homens não tinham limitação nenhuma. As mulheres somente poderiam adentrar o templo depois da menopausa, ou então depois de 50 anos de idade. E essa limitação de idade foi declarada inconstitucional pela Suprema Corte, justamente porque não existe limitação similar para o sexo oposto. De modo que hoje não se tem mais essa limitação, esse impedimento para que a mulher, né, possa congregar. Ok, Rushi.
Yeah. So lastly, I would just now like to conclude my session. It has gone anyways, beyond the time. But I just wanted to conclude that, subsequent to the year of 2013, we have had seen a lot of several changes in law, and which has been put out for the welfare and security and benefit of the women. But there is also a long way to go. But the Supreme Court has been really generous, and they have taken several initiatives. In some cases, they have issued direction to the government, as well. And there has been practical implementation of these laws as well. They have ensured that there has been certain kind of, equality which is provided to women. So though there are many difficulties as well, the women has faced in India, which includes poverty, female feticide, and sexual harassment, lack of education, job skill training. Okay. And it is sad to know that India still ranks 108th among 149 countries in the World Economic Forum's global gender gap index. So that's not a very good thing to hear. But with these welcoming change, I'm sure that we will be able to come across a nicer society which is more gender tolerant and gender, it is free from the gender bias.
Ela termina a falar que, apesar das circunstâncias abjetas, a Suprema Corte indiana tem se empenhado na aplicação das legislações já editadas. Há ainda muitas dificuldades, e ela menciona novamente, né, o assédio sexual, estupro e os casos de feticídio. E, estranhamente, né, ser a Índia o quarto país mais violento quando se diz respeito a questões de gênero do mundo. Anything else, Rushi?
And no, that is all from my side. Thank you so much again for this wonderful opportunity. And if you want to, like any ending remarks, anything, that would be wonderful.
Rushi, first of all, thank you so much for being here, for having accepted our invitation. I met her like last year, I think, and she's always this joyful little girl, Thank you very much for this insight of India's culture when it comes to gender discrimination. Estou a falar aqui, agradecer a oportunidade, né, desse encontro, por ela ter genuinamente aceito o nosso convite. Na Índia, como eu disse no início de nossa fala, já são 3 horas da manhã e ela está aqui conosco. Eu vou só perguntar a ela uma questão que eu tenho em mente, porque eu estava a estudar um pouco sobre discriminação de gênero na Índia, e ainda se tem as castas. É uma realidade, mesmo que se tenha hoje um diploma que veda essa separação, essa segregação. E eu vou fazer esse questionamento a ela agora, se me permitem. Rushi.
Yes.
I was researching something, about gender discrimination in India. And I was shocked when I've heard that 2 recent gangs rapes of Dalit women that end up with the death of both women. One, I think, was 19 years old, and the other one was 22 years old. And yes, and have shocked people around the world. But you have now an act that prohibits cats, right? Or this kind of segregation, like Dalit?
Yes. See, in our constitution, in Indian constitution, as I read out one of the articles to you, that it specifically says that you cannot discriminate anyone based on caste, creed, sex, gender, any of the thing. So these are out of question. So this is a fundamental right. So you cannot, just so the caste system is, something which is very deep rooted in the Indian society, and that is something which we are working. The present generation, I can say, is still working on it. But otherwise, yes, it's so deep rooted that the oppressed society, the oppressed minorities, the Dalits, or somebody who is from a backward caste, or somebody who is from the scheduled caste. All these people face a lot of atrocities, and we also have an act which is prohibiting the atrocities to the minorities. So this is also there. Yeah.
Ok. Eu perguntei, então, do sistema de castas, e ela disse que a Constituição indiana é incisiva em apontar a vedação de práticas discriminatórias contra castas. Mas o sistema de castas ainda é uma realidade. E a maior parte da violência, né, contra as mulheres é acometida, né, pelas mulheres que compõem a casta dos Dalits. E que é uma realidade e que, infelizmente, é uma realidade que está enraizada na cultura indiana. Significa que haveria aí muita dificuldade de superação. Alguém aqui queria fazer alguma pergunta da sala? Teria algum questionamento? Não? So, Rushi, I guess this is it. I thank you very much for this. We have a question here on chat. Just a second, Rushi. Do you have any provisions? That's a question from Julia Gotardo.
Okay.
Do Indians have legal provision about digital harassment?
About
Digital harassment that happens virtually.
Virtually, we have included certain provisions under the criminal act itself, because as I told you earlier, there is no specific dedicated act which talks about cyber crimes. Yes, we have Information Technology Act, okay, which was enacted in 2000, which covers the cyber crime part, which covers the sexual harassment or the cyber harassment, through any kind of cyber medium part, that is there. But not a specific which is dedicated to only virtual harassment.
Okay.
Right, but there is Information Technology Act, which covers all these issues, and we have dedicated cyber cells. So there are cyber cells in each zone of the country, which helps you to only deal with the cyber crimes. That's how we do it. Yeah.
Não se tem, Júlia, pela resposta dela, uma legislação dedicada ao combate do assédio digital. O que se tem, né, são, de verdade, aquele ato criminal que ela já disse, que criminaliza a prática de assédio sexual, o que poderia incorporar, e também há outros diplomas normativos que regulam crimes cibernéticos, e que você poderia fazer aí uma interpretação sistêmica e analógica a incluir também o cyber harassment, que é o assédio aí digital, da forma como colocada na pergunta. Roshi, I think that's it. I know it's too late in India, so we are pleased to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here, and I, heartfelt thanks and gratitude to all the guests who have been so patient, all the audience who have been so patient. And thank you for having me here. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Thank you, Roshi. Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namastê, namastê, namastê a todos. Thank you. Obrigada a todos pela audiência, obrigada. E na próxima, amanhã, Isabela, vamos continuar? Pode terminar. Isabela, seu áudio, eu acredito que não está. Mas, de todo modo, agradecemos pela paciência, por estar conosco nessa noite e nos vemos amanhã também no Chá com Elas, aqui no mesmo horário, mas amanhã teremos a conselheira Tânia a falar sobre violência doméstica. Até a próxima.
Thank you. Bye-bye.